Hi, I'm Sherwin Lai, class of 2020. I'm an interpretation captain at Bellarmine and speech debate for the 2019-2020 school year. Today I have kind of 3-in-1 combo presentation about variation, emphasis, and pauses, particularly in Interp, but actually I'd say it applies to a lot of other speech events as well. So let's just get right into it. Variation. Obviously, it would be very boring to give your whole speech in the same kind of tone, motion. So here are some things to consider changing up. First, tone. Without sounding too interpy, is your tone constantly adapting to the flow of your speech? Like, are you changing it to reflect, um, like the different parts of your speech that are developing, or right? So one thing I've noticed is if you use like a similar tone throughout the speech, the judge will pretty much just start ignoring it after 1 minute and really tune it out because our ears become and brains become like super tired of the same sounds over and over again. And if nothing changes, it's really easy to tune out. So always constantly give us new tone, um, new vocal variety to make it interesting and keep us engaged in the speech. Facial expressions, are they constantly engaged, natural, and specific? Right? I do want to caution that it is possible to overdo tone and facial expressions, make them over interpy, have them follow this like generic cadence. It kind of feels fake. So you don't want to push it, but make sure your facial expressions are actually adapting to what you're saying, because no one wants to hear speech from like a robot. Yeah. Emotions. Are you engaging with complex or mixed emotions, right? So obviously, the emotion needs to reflect the content of your speech. But let's see if we can get more complex or interesting, right? Instead of just being fluctuating between happy, sad, and angry, maybe be more specific and be confused at one place, or excited, or overwhelmed, or frustrated, right? These are all different specific emotions that you want to incorporate. And finally, gestures. I have a separate video lecture on gestures. Go check it out. But make sure you're gesturing with intent and you're not just doing the same freaking hand gesture over and over again. I know everyone has like one gesture they always use. I have a certain one. I know certain people have one. You've got to break that pattern or else it looks super awkward and unnecessary. Not unnecessary, but boring. Well, it is also kind of unnecessary to do the same thing because you're not really conveying anything new. So think about tone, facial expressions, emotions, and gestures when you're trying to bring more variation into your speech. Okay, next topic, word emphasis. So this might seem really obvious, but you'll be surprised that actually takes effort to implement. So obviously it's boring if you say everything the same way. So emphasis helps yield better audience response and help them become more engaged. When you're starting out, recommend that you actually physically use a writing utensil and mark the places in your speech that need emphasis. We'd also need to pause. Use pauses to give the audience a chance to digest the information. We'll have a slide on pauses in a bit. So there are different ways to vary the quality of your voice and bring emphasis. So just pitch, how high or low it is. Tone, just like the quality or timbre of your voice that you're using. Like it could be like harsher or softer, not softer and like less loud, but like softer tone. I don't know how else to explain it. Um, or stern or nice, right? Side of things. A volume, how loud or soft. Rate, how quickly or how slowly you're saying. Keep in mind, don't ever rush to build emphasis. That actually takes away from the emphasis. A key note about volume. Just because something is louder does not mean it's more intense. So I see a lot of DIers, especially, they just like scream as loud as possible in your climax and think that makes it more emphasized. That's not really effective. You've got to have that intensity, that actually like that intense emotion to back it up, so it's not just like purely volume. Other words, um, I want you to think of volume and intensity as independent things. They're definitely related, but you can't have one without the other. Um, and the other trick is if there's something really important in your speech that you're about to say. I think this applies more for OIers, but really for anyone. Sometimes you actually want to lower your volume so that people listen in more and pay attention. Of course, you never want to lower your volume below a certain point or stop projecting. Otherwise, people get frustrated if they can't hear clearly. Never stop enunciating either. Another distinction is between volume is projection. So you can actually be really soft but still project and everyone can hear. Or you can be like super loud but fail to project. So those are also independent things, like projection and volume itself. So yes, it is possible to lower your volume really quietly as long as you have the projection. Don't emphasize everything, right? If you start adding the same emphasis, you actually emphasize nothing because nothing stands out. Also, emphasis can create different implied meanings. So I'm going to go over some examples now. These examples may seem silly or trivial, but I really want you to bear with me because they illustrate an important concept. So let's look at the sentence. I was born in San Jose. I'm going to emphasize I. You, on the other hand, were born somewhere else. I was born in San Jose. I'm emphasizing I, right? I was born in San Jose. I was emphasizing was. How dare you imply that I wasn't, right? I might be having a disagreement. I'm insisting and asserting that I was born in San Jose. I was born in San Jose. I was born. I'm a native, not a newcomer. I was born in San Jose. I'm emphasizing in, right? Not outside San Jose, but inside. And of course, I was born in San Jose, not San Francisco, not somewhere else, not Fremont, right? I was born in San Jose, right? So you can see, even with the same sentence, if we're emphasizing different portions of it, we can actually create different meanings. And although this example seems like silly and basic, it's actually really important that you pick the right parts of your sentences to emphasize in your speech, so that you do get the intended meaning that you want. Okay, finally, pauses. Pause to give the audience a chance to digest information. This is especially important when you're transitioning between sections or after you say an important line. Pause. Now, one trap people fall into is like when you're using hesitation during dramatic moments, don't overdo it. There's a difference between pausing between the words and pausing between sentences. If you pause between the words in a sentence, it actually becomes choppy and doesn't make sense. If you pause between sentences, that's more effective. I'll give you an example. So if I pause between words, this is what it might sound like. And in that moment, everything made sense. Right? Obviously, I'm hesitating and trying to be dramatic, but it sounds really choppy and weird. Now, let's see if we can just pause at the punctuation marks rather than the whole thing, right? And in that moment, everything made sense. Right? That was still really effective. Even though I didn't pause between each word, right? So choosing the right places to pause, super important. Again, don't pause and drag out the words within a sentence. Pause between sentences. All right, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed or found helpful these 3 skills: variation, word emphasis, and finally pauses. If you have any questions, let me know, let your captain know, or let your coaches know. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you.